Hey, good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Yes, can you guys give me a heads up that you can hear me? And also on Facebook, because I'm navigating, having to turn it off in one place and making sure it's on in one. So I think we have a couple of people on here live with us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, I wanted to start with an introduction. I am so excited to be here with you and happy to introduce you to a dear friend and a colleague. Deanna works with people, empowering them to help move their energies out of your bodies, right? I'm all about talking about the body on this healing journey. So before we dive into tapping, this powerful, it's kind of amazing. It's usually the simplest tools that are the most powerful. So but I want to tell you guys a little bit about Deanna before we start. She works with people who are stressed out, and these times who isn't, right? who are stressed out and ready to do something different to gain freedom from obsessive thoughts or compulsive behaviors, right? So much of that is our habits. She guides clients to feel liberated and alive, even in the midst of chaos. One of her passions is working with people who are fed up with conflicting advice about what to eat and helps them to break free from obsession to feel comfortable today. Deanna utilizes time-tested tools and cutting-edge techniques to bring the mind, body, spirit. And she has certification in hypnotherapy, NLP, which is Neuro-Linguistic Programming, EFT techniques, tapping, matrix, reprinting, and more. And there's so much wisdom this woman brings to us today. So thank you, Deanna, and welcome.
Thank you so much. It's really my honor and pleasure to be here with you and your community. And it's kind of cool because that's the first time I've heard anybody actually, say that. I've been working on how to describe what I do. And I think one of the reasons why you and I have really bonded is this connection of our energy and our body. It's as we go through our healing journey, we can do a lot of thinking, and that's cool. There's a reason for that. There's also, if we only do that, we're up here and we've cut off the other part. And our emotions are recorded in the body, in the soma. And our head is also part of the soma, but there's this big thinker in there. And what I love, one of the reasons why I love tapping, or it's really known originally as emotional freedom techniques. And I was thinking about that because it's been dropped a lot, because tapping, it's like, oh, well, it's tapping, so you don't have to think about EFT. But when you think about the term emotional freedom techniques, now that really, in a nutshell, talks about the power of it. And why I love it is it's a simple tool that anyone can use anywhere, anytime. And you have your hands with you wherever you go. You have your emotions, you have your thoughts, you have all of that. And even if you have an injury to your hands, you can do it through your imagination, through your intention. So it's a powerful tool that can be used in a lot of different ways. And what tapping does, I think a lot of people may have exposure and some people not. So I want to give you a little bit of a history on tapping and how it came about. Gary Craig and Roger Callahan were two buddies in California, and Roger Callahan was doing all this emotional stuff. And Gary Craig was an electrical engineer by trade. And they started to put their heads together, and they found that the electrical system, our energetic system, the meridians, and also the chakras, they're all energy, all of that's all intertwined. And if you, work on certain points, you're actually affecting different parts of the system throughout the whole body, mind, and spirit. So Roger and Gary created these crazy convoluted things. If you had a headache, you tapped here and there and there. And if you had an emotional issue, you tapped somewhere else. And it was quite convoluted. And one day Gary said, well, hey, what if all the systems, they're all intertwined. What if we hit the major points and we do a clean sweep, and it's easy and teachable? And that's really how the process of EFT was born, in a succinct pattern, which is now, taught all over the world. The other thing about EFT, the emotional freedom techniques, there is an S at the end. And I probably should do some more studying on the exact thing, but how I interpret it is there's a variety of ways to use tapping. There's a variety of ways it all works, and some of it will work better than others. We'll get into an example of it here in a few minutes, but it's this: when you get the more and more specific you get, the better it works. The closer the target that that you can do, the better it gets. And that's where we're going to take you here in a few minutes. We're going to get into not only the thoughts and the feelings, but that felt sense. Where are you noticing this happen in your body? And we'll describe it and we'll get into it. So what tapping
That's
does.
Beautiful. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Go ahead. Do you have some questions, Savava? Or maybe there's been some questions that have shown up?
No, not yet. No questions. I was encouraging people to ask us some questions, but I really appreciate how you've explained a little bit the history of it and how it works. And also what I've heard you say a few times, and I really appreciate it, is that obviously, the variety of use, and it's so accessible. I'm all about empowering people with tools that they can use to heal themselves, because we don't heal people, people heal themselves, right? And the truth is we're all healers. But what I also liked about what I've heard you say is that the more you can kind of pin down to the issue that you're working on, and I think that's maybe, to me, that was like the aha moment. A lot of people say, oh, it doesn't work for me. Maybe it isn't because they haven't really derived to, what's the pain point, or what's the emotional connection. So once we can maybe help people get some clarity about that. So I do have some questions along the way, but I have the feeling you're going to cover them. But the other thing I really like about, I've seen you teach tapping is, how you tie the points to different parts of our bodies. You're the first person I've do that. And to me, that was very helpful.
Yeah, so each point is actually tied to the energy meridian. Most of them are endpoints. So the only exception to that is the side of the hand, and there are several points that are part of the small intestine meridian runs through here. And the small intestine meridian is your sorter. Sorts out, should I keep the vitamins and minerals from what I just ate, or should I pass it on as waste? And that sort of thing. So yes, on a physical level, that's what it does, but it's also doing that on an emotional level. And the small intestine isn't here in the side of your hand, but the energy meridian runs through the side of your hand. So how beautiful is that you can be tapping here and sorting through what's going on. And I want to come back to that in a minute, because there is one other part about tapping that I think this community especially will understand and appreciate. And that is the tapping. When we start tapping on our body, we're talking to the amygdala. And the amygdala is that fight or flight part of your brain, and it does not know language. So if you're only talking to the fight or flight, you're missing a big chunk of what needs to happen for it to feel safe. And the tapping says, okay, I can chill out. Savava's okay. Deanna's okay. And I'm right here right now, and I'm okay. And so that's what the tapping is doing. It's talking to that part of your brain that wants to fight or flight. and lets it know all is well. And the talking talks to your ego. So when you combine the two, that's why tapping can be so powerful.
Yeah, so basically the tapping is the language that the body understands.
Right.
It's the words, or, the amygdala, right? The amygdala responds to that movement of energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
so with that in mind, we'll talk now a little bit about the practice and what we'll do. And I'll post this, I'll give this to you so you can post for the group, and they can have kind of the basic recipe that I'll take you through, and they'll have it and they can use it themselves later too. But the setup statement is the most brilliant part of the whole thing, in my opinion. And that's because when we go to the side of the hand, we're asking, we're really stating the truth, even though I'm stressed out about something. The gold standard is I deeply and completely love and accept myself. For some people, that might be hard at first. And I was one of those people. So I had to start with, and I'm okay in this moment. In this very moment, I'm okay. And I could be right there, right now. And over time, I grew to where I can truly say, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. So that's, we start at the side of the hand, generally speaking. I'm going to show you some shortcuts later. But to kind of just take you through all of the points, we start at the side of the hand and we say, even though I'm having this issue, I'm okay. And then we start to run through the points, and we work from the top of the head. There are others that start here. You can't do it wrong. That's my other advice, is you can't do it wrong. It is truth telling. If you can remember this, I can do it right. There's just no way to do it wrong. And it's truth telling. You will find success with tapping, even if it creates just a short little shift. The more specific, again, you get, the better it will be. But I want to take you just through the points real quickly, and then I'll take you back through the whole process. So we go to the top of the head. We go to the eyebrow. You'll notice that sometimes I use one hand and sometimes I use two. You can trade off. You can do one or the other or both. It's all okay. So there's the eyebrow, the side of the eye. Then we come to under the eye, under the nose, to the chin, to the collarbone. And then I'm going underneath my arms. It's hard to see on camera, but it's, yeah, there you go. Your camera's a little better angle.
Yeah, you can see it on my camera.
It's that bra line.
Yep.
And then you just come on back around. And start working your way back through. And what I love about it is when you think about it, we're just making our way down the face. And if you skip a point and you forget a point, don't worry about it. You just keep on going. Because as another friend of mine says, all rivers lead to the ocean. So
that's right. Yeah, that's right.
It's
and
really
I also
cool.
Yeah, and hearing you say you can't do it wrong, because that's for so many of us. We are all in a panic, like, oh my God, what happens if I do this wrong, or if I'm not hitting the right points, or where exactly is it? I think your body is pretty forgiven. So
it is.
Yeah. But I also just wanted to, someone commented in the Facebook group that their struggle was with that setup statement, that, in the beginning it was too big for them to say, I completely, love and accept myself. So I think your suggestion of the setup statement to say, in this moment, I'm okay, that's a great place to start.
Yeah, because if you're truth telling, and you're getting the most out of it, then that's a good place to start. And then over time, you can progress. And the other thing that's helpful, so in kind of getting back to the basics of it, I guess what I want to tell you too here is, because you mentioned it, and I think it is important, and I'll share this with the group. I have a schematic of what each point the energy meridian endpoints. But again, I'll just mention briefly a couple of them so that you have the idea of what they do. Again, the side of the hand goes to the small intestine, which is a sorter. Under the eye is your stomach. Many of us really hold our stress and our worries in our stomach. This is the stomach meridian. And so much happens here. So, you know, this is a great one, and it's for fear, worry, you know, nervousness, disappointment, and it'll start to clear that. It'll clear the block because we just are trying to get it to flow again. The collarbone is also another, you know, kind of master point, and that's the kidney meridian, and the kidneys go all sorts of places. There's another point, and I'll mention it here, and then I'll teach you a shortcut to it. It's not part of the basic setup statement and flow of tapping, but it is one that's really good as a shortcut. And it's in between the ring finger and the pinky finger and about 2/3 of the way down. And once again, don't worry if you don't exactly have it spot on. This is a fear point. This is called the 9 gamut in tapping. The energy meridian that runs through here is the triple warmer, and the triple warmer energy meridian, when you're in fear and when you're in fight or flight, it takes over and says, all non-essentials shut down. We're ready for battle. This will let it know, okay, the troops can stand down. So I'll take you back through that in a moment, but I wanted to just mention a few of those so that you get that idea of the body-mind connection of on every point, which I'll share, you know, with you in your group so you can look at it in detail later. There's more information around that. I thought it might be fun to do a quick sample. So if there aren't any questions we need to answer, I'll take you through a sample of it.
Okay, no questions yet. So I'm gonna remind the group, don't be shy. This is your chance to get your personalized answer to a question, wondering, suspicion, or concerns you've had about trying tapping for you and why you feel like it hasn't worked for you. Please, here's your chance to ask Deanna about it. So, but please, I think it would be very helpful also just to have people, as we walk them through it, they will get an experience of it. So, all right, and of course, there's a couple people here having trouble with the with the internet. So that's always the fun part of
play, right? So
exactly.
They can look at it, and they can reach out to me too later, and I'd be happy to answer their questions. So.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Let's just do a quick one, and this will be kind of fun to see what's going on. One of the things that we can look at is breathing. So if you will just take a moment, Savava, and just take a breath in, a natural breath in. And when you do that, let me know kind of where it stops. Like when I take a breath in and I just stop, I kind of notice it stops here at my heart. Where does yours stop?
Actually, I think it stops in my, kind of like my solar plexus.
Okay.
I feel it almost down there between my solar plexus even and my sacral chakra.
Great. So yours comes down to there, your solar plexus, sacral chakra. You can kind of sense it. And as you're sensing that stop, I wonder if you can help describe that stop. Is it like a wall? Is it, what do you notice there?
It's almost like there's, it's interesting. I'm getting information right away about what it's about, but it's good. Yeah. I'm getting, like, my body's asking me to be gentle.
Yeah.
Like a soft, okay, just pause right here.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm. So you get a sense, and that information is coming in. Be gentle, be soft. And that soft spot that you're sensing there Is there any other way that you can physically describe it? Is there a color to it? Is there a warmth or a coolness or blank? Sometimes a feeling is blank.
Yeah, it's almost like there's this clear bubble, and what comes to mind is like an ice cube, like something has been frozen around that part of my spine almost, and it makes sense because I've had some back issues recently down there, so it's all, and just talking about it, I'm feeling the energy moving here, so it's very interesting. But it feels like my body has kind of like iced it internally, and the message is, be gentle as you move through here.
Beautiful. So these specifics are really helpful for us. And there's one last thing that ideally we like to do, mainly for purposes of being able to really see what happens as we tap. And that is to get a 0 to 10 rating, from 0 to 10. If 10 were that gentle, there's that, there's a feeling of be gentle, like don't go too fast, too quickly here, right? And maybe there's a little bit
that's my usual gear, so my body knows.
And is there an emotion that goes with that be gentle?
Emotion, it's right, it's coming up in my throat. It's just asking for warmth. That's the emotion that I'm
sorry,
feeling.
asking what?
Warmth.
Okay. And so let's just kind of that asking and that be gentle, that there's kind of there's a real strong request, and the strength of that request being 0 to 10. If it's a really strong request and it's just off the charts, it's a 10. If it wasn't really there at all, it would be a 0. Where would you put it in this moment?
Probably like a 6.
6? Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So let's go ahead now, and we're just going to take you through a round of tapping. Okay. One of the things that you'll notice too is that I will do the setup statement once. If you look at other tapping videos, they'll see, people do it 3 times. You can't do it wrong. Gary Craig has since learned that 1 is good enough, so I have moved to that as well. But we can't do it wrong. And the other thing that I want to caution you and everyone when they look at tapping videos, I'm going to lead this for us based upon the information you gave me and with the knowledge and skills I have. Your words are so much more important than mine. You know yourself and your body, mind, and spirit way better than I could ever. So if I say something in this tapping that isn't quite in alignment with you, please change it, because when we're tapping together, Simon says, I'm going to tap here and I'm going to say something and you're going to repeat, you're going to do the same thing with me and repeat, but only repeat if it resonates. If it needs to be shifted, your words are more important than mine. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're just going to start at the side of the hand. And we'll say, even though I'm not exactly sure what we're doing here.
I'm not exactly sure what we're doing here.
But I'm getting the message.
Getting the message.
To be gentle.
To be gentle.
To be warm.
To be warm.
As I notice what my breath is doing.
As I notice what my breath is doing.
Yeah. And whatever that's about.
And whatever that's about.
Even though I don't know what it is.
Even though I don't know what it is.
I'm okay.
I'm okay.
I'm right here in this moment with my feet on the ground.
I'm right here in this moment with my feet on the ground.
In Portland, right? You're in Portland?
Yes.
And I'm okay.
I'm okay.
Let's start working our way through the points. We'll just start at the top. I'm paying attention to my breath.
I'm paying attention to my breath.
Now we'll go to the eyebrow. And I notice when I take a breath in.
And I notice when I take a breath in,
it goes all the way down, going down the side of the eye,
it goes all the way down
to my second and third chakras.
to my second and third chakras.
That sacral part. It's kind of bright. So yeah,
That
so
sacral part.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
kind of in between the.
And I'm pointing at it because someone mentioned that they don't know what the chakras are or where they are. So just to help people realize what I'm pointing, that's why I'm pointing to my body here.
Yeah, so that point really kind of between your stomach and your pelvis is where you're noticing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Let's go under the nose. And there's like a clear bubble.
There's like a bubble.
Chin. It's like an ice cube.
Like an ice cube.
Collarbone. And it's saying, be gentle.
And it's saying, be gentle.
Under the arm. Be gentle.
Be gentle.
Top of the head. And there's a reason there's an ice cube here.
And there's a reason why there's an ice cube here.
Going to the eyebrow. And I'm okay with that.
And I'm okay with that.
Side of the eye. This clear bubble.
This clear bubble.
Under the eye, this ice cube.
This ice cube.
Under the nose has a very gentle message.
Has a very gentle message.
Chin. Be gentle.
Be gentle.
Collarbone. And it's a firm message.
And it's a firm message.
Of be gentle.
Of be gentle.
Under the arm, and I honor and respect that.
And I honor and I respect that.
Let's go ahead and take and stop for a moment. And if you will, just take in another breath and notice what you notice when you breathe in a little bit more. What happens now?
I definitely feel like my capacity to breathe in deeper is there. Like there's more space.
Yeah.
And I can just feel like this gratitude from my body that I really, really listened.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. And my whole body's tingling, so something is moving.
So the energy is moving, which is ultimately kind of right with, emotion is energy in motion. So as we're moving through that, things start to bust loose. Now we could continue on, but our time is short, so I want to respect everyone's time this morning. But before we take off from this point, we started at a 6 to at a 10. What's happening now in terms of that firmness to be gentle? Is that still have charge? Does it have a charge to it, or is it feeling a little more supported?
It's feeling more supported, and it's like the feeling of that, almost like what I described, like ice before, almost feels like it's getting liquid. It's more liquid. It's more liquefied, and there's definitely like there's a trust inside now. Like something was heard. And so it's like, okay, we can relax around this. We don't need to freeze it anymore because we're being held and supported. And I can even tap into a little bit of feeling around it, just like, oh, thank you.
Yeah. So beautiful. And I'm so glad you had that experience. And the thing that I want to share with you as well that is so important is that these things that have shown up, we're there to keep you alive, to keep you safe. And our purpose in doing all the work that we do, whether we're doing, simple tapping with ourselves or we're doing a real deep dive with you and some of the TRE work and other things that you do, is to integrate the whole. We want to keep those parts of us that have kept us safe, but let them know that we have new skills, new opportunities that they didn't have then that we do now, and we can integrate the wisdom of both and bring all of us into us as a whole. And really kind of let our diamond shine. We're kind of dusting off the, the different places and that sort of thing. And so, again, that's why I love tapping, because sometimes we just need to dust the house. And tapping is something we can do by ourselves, and we can at least, even if it doesn't completely eradicate what we're working on, it can give us a shift and create space and a point of choice. And you can also go in deep, and tapping you can use for physical pain, emotional pain, frustration. It's really something you can try on just about everything. And with that in mind, I want to share with you some quick shortcuts that I love. Because maybe you're in a restaurant or you're in public and you don't really want to be tapping all over your face, but you want to be able to do something quickly and on the fly. And so I say pick a point, any point that you find that you like when you're tapping, privately, particularly the side of the hand, or this 9 gamut point that I was showing you earlier here, right? Between the ring finger and the pinky on top of your hand. And you can, I'll just use an example that happens to me, and I use this a lot when I'm at a restaurant, because I've got some challenges around food. And I'll notice that all of a sudden my body's getting tense, and I'm kind of, and things are happening, and I'll just start tapping on this point and let myself know I'm okay. I'm just having dinner with people, and all is well. And I have a client who has had a severe spider phobia, and she uses this all the time now, and she's a spider catching fool. This is one of the things that she uses. So when she encounters a spider, and many of us have all different kinds of spiders in our lives, right? This can be that thing that will help you shift in the moment. So grab a point, any point. The other favorite one I have, and I encourage you to use this, I use it often when I'm driving, but please pull over. Give yourself the gift of a few moments and pull over. If you're upset and you're having a really bad day, and it could be whatever, you're frustrated with the coworker, you're frustrated with the loved one, pull over and just start truth telling. I am really mad. Why did that person say this? I can't believe it. This keeps happening. What's going on? And why do I keep having these feelings? And this is just crazy. Whatever your truth is, truth tell. So some people call it tap and rant. Some people call it turbo tapping. There's some other fun terms you can imagine people use for this. But it's a quick way. Feel what you feel. Because the way through the feeling, the way through it is through it. So express it and move your energy at the same time. And when you're doing that by the use of tapping, the emotion will process that 30 to 90 seconds. It will process. And then you'll be again at a place of choice. You'll start to notice that your shoulders relax or your breath relaxes. Something will shift physically. And then you can decide to fire up the car and drive off down the road, literally and figuratively. Or you might need to do some more tapping, but the insights will start to show up. Or they may decide they need to call you because now they have a new realization of something deeper that they need assistance with to work on. So these are just good ways to be where you are and giving yourself what you need in the moment, because we're with ourselves all the time.
Yes, exactly. That's lovely. I really appreciate that, Deanna, because just what you said, truth telling, right? Because our body is always trying to communicate with us, and sometimes we aren't listening, just like as what I was experiencing in this short, example with you. But also you know, like you said, once we start tapping, and this is maybe something we want to touch upon, because sometimes when we speak the truth, the feelings will come, because we've been holding on to that feeling perhaps for a long time, or that, like, that part of my body, the minute I tapped into it, I now know I could go deeper into it, right? That I almost had a little vision about where that original piece came from, and I'm going to do some work with that. I'm going to journal around it later. Yeah. So I appreciated what you said, you know, feel what you feel, and remember, yes, sometimes those feelings can be big and overwhelming, but most of them, it's a 30-second to 90-second, you know, burst of energy, right? We forget that, you know, all energy it goes up and then it comes down, just like the waves on the ocean, right?
Right.
But we worry, or we start to resist in the upswing, because we forget that it's going to come down.
Yeah, and part of what happens is, Peter Levine talks about this a lot, who has written a book called Waking the Tiger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's brilliant. Love his work.
But there's a number of somatic practitioners that have been teaching, and Peter Levine is one of the pioneers of that. And what happens is that there's a snapshot when there's a traumatic experience. It captures it, and it kind of creates a form around that memory. And particularly if you have a lot of them, they start to all go into the same place, and they're stored for immediate retrieval should some other traumatic event similar to that should show up, right? Mm-hmm. And so a lot of these things are stored in sort of like on your desk, if you will. So you have immediate access to know what to do. And that was then, and this is now. That's one of my staples of the tapping I use, because when I can sense that what I'm experiencing now is actually something from the past, that was then, this is now. It may have some similar flavor, but it's different now, and I'm in a different place. And I love and accept that part of me that was found a way, a creative way to get through it. And now it doesn't need to be on my desk anymore. I can actually put it in the archive folder, and it'll be there should a similar spider show up, right? If, you know, like my client, you know, she can catch and trap a spider, but if there was one biting her, well, then she needs to react differently.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it's important that we keep those skills somewhere, but they don't have to be on front and center. And this reprogramming, and tapping is one beautiful way to start to reprogram the nervous system to know that that was then and this is now. There's beautiful wisdom in the past that we can marry with the current experience of the now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Yeah, I love Peter Levine's work, and he's, you know, very close and similar to, of course, David Berceli, the creator of TRE, Tension and Trauma Release. So I really appreciate you explaining that so beautifully. So there's a comment here in the group, just one of our friends, you know, she shares when she becomes anxious, she feels the tension in her back and her shoulders. Is there a particular point that you can help release that tension? Or is it that, you know, is there a suggestion, you know, for that? Or is that maybe just where her particular body keeps the tension? Is it that we all hold tension differently in our bodies?
Yeah, we all do hold tension differently in our bodies. And in the back, you know, my first thought would be, you know, to tap here on the collarbone just because the kidneys are back there. But
she also said her shoulders, yeah, my back and shoulders. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so then the shoulders are actually sort of connected to the throat and to the heart and the breath. Mm-hmm. Which is why, you know, we could play with different specific points, But I would encourage her, at least when she has some time, to focus in on the specifics. So, and when you notice that your shoulders and your back are both bothering you, peel it apart a little bit. Which one is really drawing your attention the most? And start with that. And even though, let's just say it's the back, I'm noticing that my low back is really driving me crazy, I'm okay. And then when you start going into my low back, there's this, you want to describe the size of it. It's in my low back on the left side, and it's about the size of a golf ball, but it's not bumpy like a golf ball, it's smooth. And it's really, really heavy and dense, and it's pulsating. You wanted those sensation. As opposed to the thinking mind of all of the things that it's linked to emotionally, they'll show up and they'll clear. But the more we can tune into that felt sense of where that pain is, and pay attention to it and notice it and tap through it, it'll start to shift. And then, you get that clear, and then the shoulders might really stand up, or the shoulders might just naturally relax because they've been holding up for the back.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It all works together. And I mean, I can echo that, I've been having some lower back challenges. And even the last time I went to the chiropractor, all the tension had moved up into my shoulders and my neck because of how I was holding my body because of the pain in my lower back. So it's almost like we have to peel back. And I like what you said about kind of try to separate it as much as possible, because we may think it's the finger, but the original hurt is maybe in the shoulder or, somewhere else in the body.
Right.
So, and again, that's when we are being called to slow down, check in with ourselves. And just like you started me with, just the simple act of breathing and just noticing, how much am I allowing myself to even breathe, right? Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. One question I have, because how can we encourage people that maybe in the beginning say, well, this doesn't seem to work for me? I mean, what's your kind of, if you have an answer to that?
Yeah, usually when it's not working, we're not specific enough.
Yep.
And we're really still in our heads and in our story about it. Beautiful thing about tapping is you can and do get to include the story. Just remember to zero in as much as possible on the sensation, and you will actually be then really diving into the material. If you kind of think about what we were talking about, how a traumatic memory gets stored, right? And it's encapsulated. If you can almost imagine that encapsulation gets pretty, particularly when there's repeated injuries. And they don't have to be huge, big traumas. The things that are repetitive are the ones that are really the trickiest, because there's a lot of dense material around that. So when we're really honing in on the size and the color and the shape and the heat and the cold or the blank, we're tuning into that material that has been protecting us and letting it know that it's actually safe, and that you see it and you hear it and you feel it and you accept it. Because that part of you was rejected for whatever reasons. And now it's our job in this time and space in our lives to integrate that, to bring that part to the whole, to notice it and give it that space, give it that awareness, and bring it these new opportunities. And so I know, Savava, this has been part of your healing journey as well, and it has been mine, and we've come at it from slightly different angles, and yet the tools that we use all interlap, and it is this connection of the mind and the body, and allowing them to start to talk in a new way. And just as the repetition of whatever the events or the things that happened that created that, we will need to do different things with consistent action, and eventually it starts to pay off. You start to notice it. And that's where journaling is a great idea, because you can see, sometimes we forget how much was going on before, and so we get an opportunity to then write it down. And so when you're doing this by yourself, that's another thing that can be really helpful, is to jot a few notes down, so that then you can really stay focused on your tapping target of that pain. And again, the more specific you get to the bodily sensations, the better it'll work.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Thank you. And I agree with you, especially, and I know a lot of the people watching this, trauma or, ongoing injury or abuse or neglect it's part of their, really lived experience. And so for so many of us, and for myself, my survival strategy was that I just didn't feel my body. I just lived up in my head, and the lower part here was just here to carry the head. Right. And then part of my healing was to come back slowly into my body, slowly start to do what you described, is that to allow myself to become aware of this part that, and befriend it and accept, and whatever was feeling and living here, to make it safe to be expressed, because that's really what so much of the hurt is about. And that's what I love what you said. It's truth telling, and often just to show up for ourselves. I'm here and I'm willing to hear whatever you have to say. That's the healing. It isn't any more complicated than that. And again, that is something that we do for ourselves. Yes, we can hold a safe space for each other, but when we slowly learn to really honor the truth about whatever your body is feeling right here, right now. Right. It starts to peel off those layers from, the original hurt.
Yeah, it really does. And it's the tricky part, because when you determine that it was better to not feel for whatever reason, somebody told you not to, or it was just too painful to feel, you shut that off. Now we're asking you to do the exact opposite. So it's natural to want to resist it. It's natural to want to run from it. But now we're at a point where it's time for us to be firefighters. We're going to go in, but we have these beautiful tools to safely, gently explore that. And again, that's why I love the setup statement. Even though I'm stressed and I don't know what it is and I don't know what to do about it, I'm actually okay in this moment. So there's the truth of it. The truth is, and the truth of it is I'm okay. So there's both sides, and I'm gonna play with both sides, see what's going on.
Yeah. And just like you said, earlier, and I really want to emphasize this, is that the reason why we disconnect again is your biology takes over. You're hardwired to survive whatever. Your body is brilliant. And so that's why I bring a lot of trauma education to my clients, is like, when we understand our body and we understand how it responds and why it does, I didn't feel so broken. I was just like, oh, so this is why I do this thing. Okay. All right, sweet body. All right, let's I can feel the resistance there. How can we work with it? How can I make you feel accepted? Because I know why you're resisting. You've been fighting for our lives, right? Right. So to bring it really back in and accept, looking around right here, right now, I am okay. I am okay. I am okay now. Even though something crazy is going on inside and you don't understand it or why, but it's asking to be released and just... And so the more we do the okay now, the more our capacity for holding in the now, that's like that self-regulation or capacity to be present with that discomfort increases. And we can and we start to take deeper breaths, right? And open up our hearts and share more of ourselves, just like you and I are trying to do, right? Is to, as we've connected with our hearts, is like, okay, how can we support others to have this wisdom and this knowledge so they can feel at peace in their bodies?
That's right. Yeah. And that's where, one of the things that will happen with tapping is you'll start to notice that you may yawn. You'll start yawning. Yawning, like, is great. Yay. You burp. That's a release of energy. Your eyes might start to flicker rapidly, right? Mm-hmm. That's a release of that traumatic material. It's starting to move. Keep going, because you're on to something. The tears may flow a little bit. That's okay. Be with them, allow them, and they'll run their course. So all of those, and sometimes you'll yawn like crazy. You're like, what's wrong with me? No, actually, nothing's wrong with you. You're releasing a big part of what was then, and you're moving into now.
Yeah, exactly. Beautiful. So Deanna, we're coming up on the hour here, but I have one question from the group, and maybe we can just quickly kind of go through the steps. She's asking, not sure where and how to start. If we can just maybe outline here in our summary, where do you start? Where do we start? And you had mentioned, we can share more information with people. I can post in the group later. But just as a summary, if someone wants to do tapping right now, where do they start?
So where you start is in the awareness. There's something that's up. You notice what it is. And so at that point, if you can, jot down what the emotion is. And so you want to, figure out that then what is it that's bothering me? You kind of write that down. And rate the distress level. So that 0 to 10, I'm feeling really anxious and I'm at about a 10, let's just say, whatever that is, just to give yourself a place. Then you want to do the setup statement. And that's, even though I'm feeling anxious, I'm okay, or I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And you start here, you work, yeah. I think what I skipped really is that, and I don't want to skip it. I want to back up a moment, because you have the emotion, you have the rating, but it's really critical that once you have that, now go in and find where it resides. You're feeling anxious, so that's a mental construct. Where are you noticing the anxiety? Is that in your shoulders? Is that in your gut?